Hello and welcome to the Down Under Visa Philippines to Australia podcast series. My name is Jeff Harvey. I'm the Registered Migration Agent with Down Under Visa Registered Migration Agents here in Manila, Philippines, and we specialise in partner visas and tourist visas and family visas for Australian Filipino couples. Now we have a blog page which is on our main website, which is www.downundervisa.com.au. Now the blog page is on there. Now we have 600-700 articles which are about Australian visas from the Philippines to Australia, and also aspects of cross-cultural relationships and life in the Philippines, which are informative to Australian Filipino couples, just like myself and my lovely Filipino wife. So what we will be doing, and what we're doing on this podcast and what we do on every podcast, is we get an article from the blog page, and I will read that through and elaborate on it, so to give that little bit of extra ad-libbing type of information, make it a little bit more interesting and a bit more informative for you. Now, the topic of today's podcast is the Australian Tourist Visa Refusal Notice. So, one that many of you will probably have seen. So you've applied for a tourist visa from the Philippines to Australia and it was refused. You would have assumed fairly naturally that it was a fairly routine application form, just like a bit like renewing a driver's license, and you would have been absolutely shocked when it came back as a refusal. Just a simple Aussie tourist visa for your Filipino lady. So why a tourist visa refusal? What went wrong? Yeah. It's something like between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5, depending on the statistics that you look at. But there is a significant chance of getting a refusal, and it happens fairly often. And the more casual about the whole process people are, the more likely they are to get refused. So, look, a refusal is an awful thing to happen. Now, I actually went through one of myself many years ago when I was still an agricultural consultant and knew nothing about migration law. This was way back in the 90s when I first came here. Now, I assumed it was routine, just a simple tourist visa application like everyone else thinks. I'd heard about all these crazy people standing in queues and waiting for partner visas, and I thought, well, stuff that. Tourist visa, then we can get married, then apply and she can stay. Now, how hard could that possibly be? This is what I thought. Many of you think, and especially if you're a fairly capable person who generally gets things done, as I've always been. Now, the only one who did any good out of the application was the Cebu City travel agent, and the feeling was utterly devastating. Now, nowadays, well, I'm quite grateful now that it didn't work out, because she was truly the Filipina from hell, which I didn't know at the time. So, yes, I learned a lot of things over the years, and I learned a lot of things the hard way. Now, apart from the shattered dreams, it was also the utter shock at getting something refused. Now, I'm an Aussie, and that's the government from my country turning me down. This sort of thing doesn't happen very often, as you know. Now, apart from applying for a loan at the bank, you might get turned down, but Australian government forms always seem like a bit of a formality. You fill them out and put them down, and then you go back and you get whatever it is that you had applied for. So, I assumed it would be pretty much like that, tick all the boxes, and, well, of course they're going to give a visa. That's what I thought. So, yes, while I obviously don't sound as shocked as you are when you tell me you had a visa refusal, I do still understand what it feels like, and we know that this is an important step for you. So you do have our sympathy when it happens. Now, tourist visa, then marry and get a partner visa. Look, a quick word on this, because it doesn't seem to matter how many times I write articles. I get people thinking they can be clever about this and take what they think is the quick option. Now you see the second paragraph above. Yes, I had thought the same thing myself. Easy path. In Australia we can generally bluff our way through most things. But guess what? This is immigration and it's rather different. The people who migrate are not voters, so there's no political clout to maintain a high standard of customer service. You try and find your local politician who's going to jump up and down for you. Well, good luck to you. Australian partner visa applications themselves are at least... what I'm talking about here, as I said, is somebody thinking, well, look, I won't apply for an offshore partner visa and wait. I'll quicken the whole thing up. I'll get a simple tourist visa. Good luck. And I'll get her to Australia and then we can get married, and then at the last minute we can just put in this quick and easy, speedy application for a partner visa, and then of course she'll stay on. Well, they'll have to let her stay, won't they? She's my wife after all. I have rights. Okay, well, here are some facts. Australian partner visa applications are at least 5 times as much work as tourist visa applications. And they require documents from the Philippines, and no, you won't know all that you will need until you've actually started on the application. There's no point asking us to just tell us what we're going to need, because we don't know either until we've seen all the facts about your case, about the both of you and your relationship. Now, these documents can be very hard to get later on when she's inside Australia. Not impossible, but it's a bit of extra stress and strain and requires extra time, invariably. Now, the next point is the department expects complete applications, what they call decision-ready applications, so what they can make a decision on without asking for additional things. Nothing left out. The days of them letting you know what they still need and giving you time to organise missing paperwork, those days are over. They've said that they've had enough, and what that means is that they will make a decision based on what they have. If you shortchange them, they're going to refuse you, and they're going to refuse you fairly quickly, because I think over the years they got sick to death of the fact that people thought, look, I don't have to know what I'm doing because I just put in this half-assed application, full of missing bits and chunks, and the department will very nicely tell me exactly what I need and very patiently work through what's missing. Well, they don't do that anymore. So if you do want an offshore partner visa application, please talk to us well and truly before she arrives in Australia, so you have enough time to get it all prepared. Now back to the refusal letter. So why was my Australian tourist visa refused? A big question. I want to know the main reason my tourist visas from the Philippines get refused? Because the case officer was not convinced that the applicant had a genuine reason to visit Australia, and therefore considers they may be a risk of overstaying. Now, overstaying usually involves working illegally, and this is a big problem in Australia. Now, there's something like 60,000 overstayers at any given time, and that is a lot. And their primary concern is that the applicant doesn't add to these statistics, and this is the primary reason for tourist visa refusal. If they weren't tough, well, that 60,000 figure, maybe it would be 200 or 300,000. It could happen quite easily. My standard joke to people, when they say, why don't they just let, you can go, an Australian can go to the Philippines, stay for 30 days, why can't they do the same thing from the Philippines? The reason is, my funny joke anyway, is I say, because the Philippines would be empty by about this time next week. People would escape in droves because it's a good life in Australia. It's a very tough life for people here, and that's the reason why. So the notice itself. Now, the visa refusal notice is basically a template letter with a few facts thrown in. And it makes some sense, but it's not overly helpful to the visa applicant, especially if you don't know how things work. Now, it pretty much does say what I said above, In other words, that they are not convinced the applicant intends to visit for the right reasons and then return at the end of that stay. Now, nearly every single letter will say they don't see strong reasons for the applicant to return to the Philippines at the end of the visit, and any offers of support are not strong enough reasons to grant a visa. I have people say, "Oh no, I give you my word, she will return." I said to one fellow who said that to me in the office, I said, "You have handcuffs and a gun?" "No." Well, I said, "Well, then how are you going to stop? How are you going to stop her? I mean, if she's determined to bugger off, well, what are you going to do to make sure that she returns?" I mean, there are cases of girls arriving at the airport. The man walks in one door, she walks out another, never to be seen or heard from again. There are cases of girls romancing a fellow and getting themselves a free plane ticket to Australia, and then they take off. It does happen, sadly. And the fact is, they don't know either of you from a bar of soap, so how are they going to be certain that you're going to do the right thing? Here's another little thought here. It's quite often family members who will give these guarantees that, they've invited Flossie Jane out for some particular reason and they've organised for her to find a job. These things happen. They have to deal with that. And I think the applicant may potentially seek recourse to lawful employment. In other words, the applicant will try to work in Australia. And there's nearly always, I'd say always, reference to why the applicant didn't meet Regulation 600.211 of the Migration Regulations, which basically means they're not convinced the applicant has an acceptable reason to visit and that they will stick to the rules. In other words, not working and leaving before the visa runs out. And it doesn't mean that the applicant needs to have a job, and it doesn't mean they needed to have $5,000 Australian dollars of show money dropped into a bank account. Don't ever say the word show money to me. It's a way of defrauding the department. Okay, most of our tourist visa applicants are unemployed. None of them were ever encouraged by us to acquire a speedy bank account. What our successful applicants do have are genuine relationships and perfectly acceptable and respectable reasons to spend time together in Australia. And our 99% plus successful tourist visa applicants were smart enough to let us demonstrate their cases to the department in Manila. Now, and we showed them exactly that they did meet Regulation 600.211, and they are the sort of people that Australia should allow to come and visit. So it comes down to, if the case is presented properly, they have no problem granting visas. They're not bad guys, they're not evil, they just have a job to do. They need to protect the borders, and they need to deal with the fact that, they get thousands and thousands of scumbags, basically, who are trying to con their way into Australia, and that's of no benefit to anybody at all. If you got caught in the middle, well, it's unfortunate, but that's the way that it works. The tone of most things are set by the people who are abusing the system, and not by the nice people, which is most of you. This is what we find. Most of our clients are very honest, are very decent, are very genuine. That's why, they took the trouble to get a professional to manage their application for them in the first place. That's what we find most of the time. And we often redo situations where somebody has had a refusal. We present their case better, and lo and behold, the visa gets granted. And they're happy to do that if, that they don't hold grudges or anything like that. If they've refused an application before, they're quite happy to relook at it. You present them with new facts, so they're quite happy to grant. Not a problem. Now, if you haven't had any help yet, we suggest that you do. Please go to our website, and you'll see an online visa assessment form there. It'll take you about 5 minutes to do that. Now, what have we got here? Okay, this was a story a month or so ago when I wrote this article about a 10-year-old Indian boy refused a tourist visa because he does not have employment, and this is typical of the use of the template letter. There's a big hoo-ha about that. How can they demand a 10-year-old boy has employment? Now the point is the template letter contained the wording, I find you have not demonstrated sufficiently strong financial, personal employment or other commitments in your home country that would be an incentive for you to return after you visit, which many of you would have read in your own refusal letters. As explained above, it's a template refusal letter which attempts to cover all circumstances, yet causes confusion, and it certainly did in this particular case. No, they didn't refuse it because the boy didn't have a job. They're not stupid. They refused it because the boy didn't meet regulation 600.211. They're not convinced he will return. Now, this particular situation, the parents had just had an onshore visa application, I don't know why, had it refused, and they're now on a bridging visa, I assume, because they're appealing that decision. So they're not in the most stable of situations and are at risk of overstaying if the appeal isn't successful in securing a visa. Suddenly they want to bring their 10-year-old son out for a holiday where they will need him to return at the end of the holiday. Now, I ask you, is there a risk of the boy overstaying? Absolutely, yes there is. And if visa refusal notices were not based on if the visa refusal notice was not based on a template, and they explained this, there would have been no SBS story. So, that's journalism, trying to sell airtime, of course, which is their job. But again, the letter made perfect sense, and in circumstances like that, they are reasonable in doing so. The same as if somebody has just, say, had a partner visa refused, and then they go, let's apply for a tourist visa, they're not going to believe that person has genuine intention to go back, because they've just made it clear that they want to be in Australia permanently, and then all of a sudden they're applying for a tourist visa. Of course, they're going to see them as being at risk. So, but again, the job in preparing a good tourist visa application is to be able to show that there is very, very minimal risk of the applicant doing the wrong thing. If we do that, it's rarely a problem getting a visa grant. Okay, well, look, I hope that was helpful to all of you. I hope that you will visit our website. I hope that you will, which is www.downundervisa.com.au. Have a look at the blog page, have a read through those articles, read over the rest of the web page, especially about types of visas that you would be interested in, and you'll see a free visa assessment form there. It'll take you 5 minutes, and we can let you know if you have a case or not. Okay, thank you very much, and we hope to talk to you next podcast. Thank you, and bye-bye.